On a Halloween night gone wrong, Karen rips out my fake eye thinking it's a costume. My life took a surreal turn when my prosthetic eye caught Karen's dangerous attention. What followed was a whirlwind of chaos and disbelief. Here's how it all went down. I never thought my Halloween night would turn into a living horror story. The evening air was crisp and carried the scent of autumn leaves. The street was alive with the chatter and laughter of children and adults alike, all dressed in a variety of costumes. I had chosen to wear a realistic-looking prosthetic eye, an impressive piece that always garnered attention. Little did I know, it would attract the worst kind of attention that night. The party was at a friend's house on Baker Street, a charming place with a spacious backyard adorned with jack-o'-lanterns and fairy lights. As I mingled, I couldn't help but notice a woman making her way through the crowd, her voice louder than the music. She was dressed as a witch, complete with a pointy hat and a broom. Her name, as I would soon find out, was Karen. "Nice costume," Karen said, pointing at my eye. "It looks almost real," I chuckled. "Thanks, it's a prosthetic. Took me ages to find one this realistic." Karen's eyes widened. "No way, it's fake? Let me see." Before I could react, she reached out and with a disturbing curiosity, poked at my eye. I flinched, stepping back. "Hey, careful, it's not a toy." Karen's fascination turned into obsession. She followed me around, insisting on examining my eye closer. I tried to be polite but firm, explaining that it was a sensitive piece and not removable. But Karen wouldn't have it. "You're just saying that because you don't want anyone else to have such a cool costume," she accused, her tone turning sour. The night progressed, and I did my best to avoid her. But as I was grabbing a drink, Karen appeared out of nowhere. "I knew it! It's a costume piece!" she exclaimed, and before I could react, she reached out and with a swift, cruel motion, pulled at my prosthetic eye. Pain seared through my socket, and I stumbled back, clutching my face. "What the hell, Karen?" Karen held my eye triumphantly. "I knew it was fake! See, everyone? Just a costume!" The room fell silent, and all eyes were on us. I was in shock, pain, and disbelief. "Give it back," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "No way!" Karen retorted, stepping back. "You lied! This is just a prop!" The situation escalated quickly. Some guests intervened, trying to reason with Karen, explaining the severity of what she had done. But she was unyielding, stubborn to a fault. She claimed I was overreacting and that it was all in good fun. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, pain, and humiliation. "Karen, you've seriously hurt me. That's my prosthetic eye, not a toy." Karen's face showed no remorse. Instead, she accused me of trying to spoil the party and seeking attention. The host, my friend, stepped in, demanding she return my eye and leave. The climax of the night was not a joyous toast or a group photo, but Karen being escorted out, still clutching my prosthetic eye, shouting about how everyone was overreacting. As the door closed behind her, the party resumed, but the mood had shifted. I was left to deal with the aftermath of her actions, a damaged eye socket and a ruined night. The following days were a blur of doctor's appointments and police reports. Karen, it turned out, had thrown away my eye in a fit of spite, rendering it unrecoverable. I've since gotten a replacement, but the incident left a deep scar, both physically and emotionally. The most repulsive part wasn't just the pain or the loss of my prosthetic eye. It was the realization that people like Karen existed who, driven by their stubbornness and ignorance, could cause such harm without a hint of remorse. The ordeal with Karen taught me a bitter lesson about the unpredictability of human nature. It made me wary of strangers and their intentions, a wariness that I carry with me to this day. As I reflect on that Halloween night, I can't help but feel a sense of loss, not just for my eye, but for the innocence and trust I once had in the kindness of others. Wow, hearing about what happened that Halloween night is just shocking. It's unbelievable how someone could confuse a prosthetic eye for a costume piece and act so recklessly. It really makes you think twice about the people you encounter and the unexpected situations you might find yourself in. I never expected that a simple family gathering would spiral into a web of deceit, betrayal, and threats. As my sister-in-law stole thousands of euros from us, she accused us of being cruel and selfish for wanting it back. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a twisted tale that would tear our family apart. Here's how it all went down. This story takes place in a major city in Germany. My sister-in-law, 55, and her husband, 57, are constantly facing financial difficulties and complaining about it. For over 10 years, they have been relying on their family to bail them out by paying their bills. Their accumulated debts already amount to 6 figures. My sister-in-law works as a physiotherapist, while her husband, due to his skin color and age, believes he doesn't need to apply for a job because he assumes he won't be able to find one anyway. When asked why neither she nor her husband would work, my sister-in-law, SIL, always claims that she has back pain and her husband has bad knees. She further states that, being over 50 and black, there are no job opportunities available to them. However, this is completely untrue. I know this because I was personally working in a job agency at the time and suggested numerous suitable jobs to him. Surprisingly, he didn't apply for any of them, citing the hourly wage of 20 euros as too low. This wage would have resulted in a monthly salary of 3,200 euros before tax, making it a viable option. Consequently, there was no motivation for him to leave the couch. Well, it's summer and my sister-in-law's birthday is approaching. We are planning a family barbecue to celebrate. During the gathering, my sister-in-law gathers everyone and gives a speech. She expresses her desire to buy a car and requests 8,000 euros for it. Additionally, she asks for another 3,000 euros for a luxury electric massage mat. She promises to repay the money this time. We inquire about her need for a car and how she plans to cover the costs of maintenance, taxes, fuel, and repairs. My entitled sister-in-law responds, "My husband is American, and he prefers not to use public transportation. He is accustomed to driving and needs the car to visit his friends. Public transport has been uncomfortable for him." When we further question how they will finance the car and cover ongoing expenses without jobs or savings, my sister-in-law becomes defensive and starts insulting us. She accuses us of being mean and trying to belittle her by asking these questions, implying that we consider ourselves superior to her. She emphasizes that she had offered to repay the borrowed money. The situation escalates, with my entitled sister-in-law bursting into tears and running into the house. Since I had to go into the house myself, I didn't hear my sister-in-law, Sael, crying as I expected. Instead, I heard her talking on the phone to her husband, who wasn't at the barbecue. My Sael was complaining to him that we were all tormenting her, patronizing her, and talking down to her. She came back to the garden with a smug smile, put her phone on speaker, and held it out to us. My brother-in-law yelled, "Just watch it. I'm going to mess you all up, you jerk. Just talk shit about me behind my back and make my wife cry. I hate you all. You all suck and I'll mess you up." Throughout this, my Sil had a satisfied grin on her face. Later, it was my Sael's birthday, and being the pushovers we were back then, we wanted to fulfill her heart's desire of a car by giving her a car-sharing deal worth 100 euros. But, as they say, no good deed goes unpunished. We gave her the 100 euro deposit, which she could use. The car-sharing agreement was in her name and she was the only one insured. We explained everything to her, and she understood and agreed to abide by the contract. She also promised to pay for any costs incurred from her account once the 100 euros had been debited. Everything seemed fine. Of course, my sister-in-law, Sael, lied and didn't change the account details, allowing her irresponsible husband to drive. Within a few months, the bill accumulated to 2,000 euros. When I noticed this discrepancy in our account, I immediately revoked their access and confronted my Sael. However, she ignored me and did not respond to calls, texts, or emails. Instead, she complained to my husband, her brother, portraying me as a mean and nasty wife who begrudges them, the less fortunate, their car. My Sil said, "Your wife, dear brother, is so outrageous for wanting her money back. I haven't been able to sleep for 3 nights. Her husband, in a later email, called me derogatory names and threatened physical harm, insisting that I stop nagging them about money. According to him, I need therapy because I've gone crazy. He repeatedly threatened me, promising that I would soon get a few punches if I didn't keep quiet. The situation escalated when this aggressor showed up outside our house, attempting to intimidate me into silence. It's worth mentioning that this individual has a history of violent confrontations, with several charges and court cases against him. I reported him to the police, but the rest of the family turned against me, criticizing me for getting involved. They blamed me for the entire situation, suggesting that my husband and I, who apparently have enough money, should let our less fortunate relatives keep it. My mother-in-law even offered to beg from the family to repay us, just so we would stop causing trouble. Of course, my SIL and BIL never repaid anything, nor did they apologize. Instead, they launched a smear campaign against us. When I brought up the issue, my husband's family rolled their eyes and insisted that it was my fault, accusing me of overreacting with my complaint. They claimed that my reaction was extremely over the top, labeling me as the problem. I faced criticism from all directions within the family. The situation reached its climax when my CL and BIL showed up at my father-in-law's birthday party a few months later, causing a scene. They claimed they were being mistreated and bullied within the family, warning that we would all pay the consequences. Once again, my BIL resorted to his infamous threats. During the event, my BIL instigated fights with all the men in the family, including my husband, attempting to provoke them. However, my BIL failed to succeed in provoking my husband. Instead, he cowardly pushed my other brother-in-law's wife to the floor as he was too afraid to confront the men. What a loser. Meanwhile, my CIL shouted at me, blaming me personally for the destruction of the family and the chaos that ensued. She mockingly asked if I was proud of my destructive work. Shortly after, my BIL aggressively approached me, shouting that he would do anything to protect his family and threatening physical violence. I immediately called the police, prompting my BIL and CIL to flee the scene upon hearing the sirens. Meanwhile, after 3 long years, we finally received the money back from my mother-in-law. She condescendingly offered to go begging so that we would stop nagging about the money. Despite her grumbling, kicking, and screaming, we now have the stolen money back from her. She saved her unreliable grown-up daughter from the consequences of her actions. Recently, my thieving sister-in-law came scratching at our door again, claiming severe depression due to the way we had treated her. I wonder if it could be because she has a lazy, problematic husband who causes conflicts with everyone he meets. Apparently, she believed there was so much negativity coming from me personally that she needed to go to a special clinic to get treatment for her depression. I told her to leave and share her sob stories with someone else. My husband also informed her that he no longer had time for her. I understand that the in-laws felt it was ridiculous and not worth mentioning when we were robbed of 2,000 euros. Previously, my sister-in-law had stolen a whopping 20,000 euros from her own daughter's college fund. When her daughter asked about the missing money, she shrugged her shoulders and said, "I had bills to pay. I am now completely cutting off contact with my in-laws, while my husband is maintaining very limited contact. I am finally free from those pests. Unfortunately, I have to admit that, except for my husband, his family is a disappointment. They cover up theft within the family, tolerate verbal, physical, and emotional abuse, and engage in victim blaming. I will never sit at the same table with them again." After going through such a traumatic experience with your sister-in-law and her husband, you've come to realize the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing your own well-being. It was a painful lesson, but it taught you to value yourself and surround yourself with people who respect and support you. While it's unfortunate that your relationship with your in-laws has been severed, you are grateful for the clarity it has brought into your life. Moving forward, you are committed to cultivating healthy and positive relationships with those who truly deserve your love and trust. As a college student volunteering to teach English, I never expected to encounter an entitled parent named Karen who demanded exam answers for her child. Little did I know that her demands would escalate into threats and a plot to have me expelled from college. Here's how it all went down. For context, I am soon graduating from college, but in my area, we are required to complete what is known as social service hours. This entails working on a project related to your major. In my case, I volunteered to help teach English for free to students. Since this program was free and the students were not being graded, many of them would not pay attention, especially since the classes were conducted online. To make the classes more engaging, I tried to make them as entertaining as possible. The class was small, with only 12 students. It is important to note that I was just one of the college students participating in this program as a teacher. The program was not created by my college, and we were provided with all the teaching materials. However, the final test was going to be conducted in person by the organizers of the program. The students were surprised when they were informed that the last test would be graded, and they needed a minimum score of 50 out of 100 to pass and receive a diploma proving they had completed the English program. I informed the students about this change and, for the most part, the majority of the teenagers, aged 15, 17, were doing fine. We had been working together for about 16 weeks at this point. However, out of my class of 12 students, there was one student, let's call him Mike, who was facing some difficulties. It is important to note that Mike is not a bad kid, but from the beginning, he made it clear that he did not want to learn English. Instead, he wanted to learn French. I later learned that he had almost received a scholarship to study at a school that taught French as a second language, but his mother sent him to a school that is well known for teaching English because he was struggling with the subject. After the announcement that the last test would be graded, I offered the class the option to attend extra sessions. These sessions were not part of the program, but I offered them because I had the free time and because the students would be graded on the program. Out of the 12 students, 11 joined the extra classes. I'm sure you can guess who didn't join. With only 2 weeks left until the final test, I started receiving contact from Mike's mother, Karen. At first, she seemed like a concerned mother, but her true colors soon showed. By this time, I had stopped offering the extra classes due to lack of time caused by my job. I explained this to Karen, but she became upset and demanded that I find the time to teach her son. All of this communication was happening over the phone since our classes were conducted online, and the parents had my phone number through WhatsApp. I tried to reason with Karen and suggested that if they could provide me with the topics Mike needed help with, I would try to assist him, under the condition that a parent was present during the sessions to avoid any misunderstandings or accusations of impropriety. During the extra classes, Mike would connect, and his aunt would always be in the background. However, with only 2 weeks left, He was trying to cover almost 16 weeks worth of lessons. 1 week before the exam, I started receiving multiple calls from Karen, but I couldn't answer most of them because I was working. This seemed to anger her even more, and she began leaving me messages accusing me of ignoring her. In one day, she called me 24 times while I was at work. After finishing my shift, I called her back, thinking that something bad had happened. However, she simply started yelling at me, calling me a bad teacher, and demanding that I share the final test answers because Mike needed to pass and receive his diploma. I tried to explain to her that I didn't have access to the test results, and even if I did, it would be inappropriate to share them. This only made Karen even angrier, and she threatened to ensure that I would be expelled from college for ruining her son's future. She also threatened to spread rumors that I had asked her son for extra classes just to spend time with him. Fortunately, my college director and the teacher in charge of connecting us with the people from the project knew about the extra classes and even encouraged us to offer them if we had the time. In the end, I hung up on Karen, but I couldn't block her yet because we still needed to share important information with the parents through texts. However, I took a screenshot of her threats and sent them to my teacher in charge and the program coordinator. Karen was given a stern warning and was informed that she was not allowed to accompany her son on the day of the exam. Someone else had to bring him to the exam location, and he would be closely observed to ensure he did not cheat. I had to endure Karen's harassment for the rest of the week because she was still the main contact person for Mike, despite everything that had happened. Finally, I was relieved to be able to block her after giving the last instructions for the day of the exam. The students were divided into groups, and a teacher from the program was assigned to supervise them. Later, I learned from the teacher who supervised my former students that Karen had tried to spread rumors about me being a bad teacher and a creep. However, since the other students had performed well in my classes, none of the other parents complained, and in fact many of them supported me. It was also revealed that Mike actually wanted to learn French, not English. After going through the challenging experience with Karen, I couldn't help but reflect on the importance of setting boundaries and maintaining professionalism in educational settings. It is crucial for educators to prioritize the well-being and learning of their students while also ensuring their own safety and integrity. This incident served as a reminder of the resilience and dedication required to navigate difficult situations, and the significance of support from colleagues and institutions in addressing such issues. Despite the obstacles, it was gratifying to see the positive impact made on the majority of the students and their continued progress in their language learning journey. As I lay in the aftermath of a life-threatening childbirth experience haunted by postnatal PTSD and PPD, I face the heart-wrenching reality that my husband refuses to undergo a vasectomy. With the fear of another pregnancy consuming me and the touch of his hand triggering anxiety, I question if our relationship can survive this divide. Here's how it all went down. We recently had twins, even though we had only planned for one child, and the childbirth experience was almost fatal for me. It was an extremely traumatic event, and I am now undergoing weekly therapy for postnatal PTSD and PPD. Additionally, I require physical therapy for torn abdominal muscles from the pregnancy and other issues. While I love my daughters, it has been incredibly challenging. For the past 5 months, I have been asking my husband to consider getting a vasectomy. Due to health reasons, I am unable to use hormonal birth control, and the thought of any kind of invasive procedure now, after the trauma I've experienced, makes me physically ill. I need to use laughing gas and anxiety medication just to go through checkups. Coincidentally, our twins were conceived from a broken condom. Initially, my husband would respond with promises of getting the vasectomy later. However, 2 days ago, when I asked him again, he yelled at me, stating that he would never get it done. Since the birth, we have not had sexual intercourse except for one traumatic incident. When I questioned him about his refusal to get a vasectomy, he had no answer and simply told me to drop the subject. I informed him that we would not be having sex until this issue is resolved, which left him flabbergasted. I have since moved to the guest bedroom because he has been attempting to initiate sexual contact and flirting with me since I made that statement. While I understand that it is ultimately his decision regarding his own body, I am unsure if I can continue in this relationship when it is evident that he lacks concern or appreciation for what my body and mental state went through to bring our children into the world. I love him, but his lack of empathy feels like a betrayal, and I'm not sure if I can forgive him for it. How can I explain to him that the idea of him being able to impregnate me again fills me with revulsion and makes me nauseous? How can I express that sometimes his touch, as much as I enjoy it, triggers fear and anxiety, causing me to have a negative physical reaction? I attempted to communicate this before, and I ended up silently crying into a pillow throughout the experience because the fear and anxiety were overwhelming. I didn't want to make him feel guilty, so I didn't share this with him. This issue is not going away anytime soon. Perhaps the postpartum depression will fade, but the PTSD is something that I will likely be working through with my therapist for years to come. How can I effectively communicate all of this to him? How can we address and resolve these issues in our relationship if we cannot engage in sexual intimacy? Is it even worth trying to mend our relationship when it feels like he doesn't care about my wishes to not have any more children? I was asked to include this information. Due to multiple consultations with OBGYNs, it has been determined that I cannot undergo any invasive surgical contraceptive procedures in the near or foreseeable future, both for mental physical reasons. I will not provide further details about my medical history or why this is the case. Yes, my husband is aware of this and has heard it directly from my doctors. I have also had a traumatic incident prior to the birth of our twins with a copper IUD, which required surgical removal. My husband refuses to attend therapy. His negative experiences with therapy, as his parents were therapists, have made him unwilling to consider it. I have read through many of the responses, almost all of them. There were those who suggested a middle ground, those who said I cannot force him, and those who believed my husband doesn't care about me. I wasn't trying to force him. I was pleading with him for empathy regarding what I went through and sacrificed to bring our children into the world. I wanted him to show care for the trauma I experienced, and to know that he would support me in sickness and in health. He has expressed many times that he does not want more children, even stating that we now have one too many. I am not punishing him by withholding sex. Those who suggest this clearly do not understand PTSD or, more importantly, that my body is not his, and he does not have a right to sex with me. I cannot withhold something that is not his to begin with. I will be taking some time away from my husband because reading these responses has not provided me with any more understanding as to why he would be willing to risk my health and mental state by refusing a vasectomy. I know that if the roles were reversed, I would do it for him, and in fact, I have done so in the past. When we were first together, I tried to get a copper IUD because he didn't like the feeling of condoms. Even though I was scared, I went through the procedure, which resulted in me passing out from pain in the doctor's office and then being rushed to the emergency room 2 days later due to complications and excessive bleeding. This is not the man I married, or at least I didn't think he was. Otherwise, I would have never risked what I did for him or dedicated all these years to him. And just to address a recurring comment, as I mentioned in multiple comments in my previous edit, I cannot have my tubes tied for both mental, emotional, and medical physical reasons, as made clear to me by 2 separate OBGYNs. To all the men who have told me that getting a vasectomy won't solve the problem, and that I won't find anyone else who will want me if I leave him, thank you. I am bisexual, and I certainly won't limit myself to dating men again. We are just weeks away from our official divorce. It was a deal breaker for me, as there was a lack of care for my personal and mental well-being, as well as a disrespect towards the sacrifices I made to have our children. I couldn't get over it. He tried to downplay the severity, but as many of you mentioned, it was ultimately his choice, just as this decision to divorce is mine. Unfortunately, I am considering filing a restraining order against him, as he has been creating accounts on my social media platforms to try to talk sense into me. Interestingly, I hadn't reread my post in a year, and when I got to the end, I had a good laugh. I am currently dating a wonderful woman. We've known each other since college, and we recently reconnected about a month ago. It's still in the early stages, and we're taking things slow. I have twins, but she has been incredibly supportive. Going back to the topic of my post, it has been a tremendous relief for me to know that she cannot get me pregnant, although we haven't been very intimate yet. Anyway, I'm not sure if anyone cares, but that's where things stand for me now. I'm in a much better place emotionally, and I feel better overall. My twins are happy, and we have been co-parenting fairly well aside from the social media issue. I think I'm going to step away now. But here's my advice. Don't let your partners use you as a human shield for all the physical repercussions of reproduction. Partnership should involve equal sacrifices from both sides, and that's not the case if he is too comfortable with you being the only one taking on the physical burden. We already do enough by bringing children into the world. It's not asking too much for him to be willing to take the same risks he expects of you. I am happy and healthy, and my twins are happy and healthy too. Thank you all for your well wishes. After reading this heartfelt account, it is clear that the issue of undergoing a vasectomy has deeply impacted the relationship between the OP and her husband. The OP's traumatic childbirth experience and subsequent mental and physical health challenges have created a significant divide. The lack of empathy and understanding from the husband has caused further distress and raised questions about the future of their relationship. It is evident that effective communication, therapy, and mutual support are crucial in resolving such complex issues. Ultimately, the OP's personal well-being and the need for a partnership that involves equal sacrifices are key considerations in moving forward. I never thought I would question the love and commitment of the person I planned to spend my life with. But as the days turned into months and the months into years, I couldn't ignore the glaring signs of a crumbling relationship. From family disapproval to neglect as a new mother, I had reached my breaking point. Here's how it all went down. I have been in a relationship with my fiance for about 4 years. Our journey has had its ups and downs. We started off in the young and in love phase, showering each other with affection, spending a lot of time together, and having a fulfilling sex life. However, as time went on, these things slowed down and eventually stopped. One major challenge in our relationship has been his family's disapproval of me. They excluded me from events and dinners, making it clear that only family members were welcome. This hurt me deeply, and I would often cry to my fiance about it. Despite my efforts to win them over, his mother's dissatisfaction with my ethnicity and his father's general disdain for everyone made it difficult to bridge the gap. At one point, I even ended the relationship to motivate him to get his life together by finding a job and going to school. Thankfully, he did, and we got back together within 2 weeks. After 2 years of a tumultuous but ultimately successful relationship, we got engaged and moved in together. It was at this point that everything changed dramatically. Suddenly, all household responsibilities fell on me. I was expected to keep the apartment spotless, have food ready for him whenever he was hungry, wake him up for work, ensure he showered, and lay out his clothes on the bed. Forgetting to put a towel in the bathroom would result in criticism. Then, we found out I was pregnant. This news shattered my world because I strongly believe in a woman's right to choose, but I also understand that actions have consequences. I was faced with a difficult decision and ultimately chose to keep my baby. My pregnancy was extremely challenging. I envied women who enjoyed being pregnant, as I experienced constant sickness, struggled to keep food down, and dealt with excruciating pain in my hips. I was in early labor for about 3 months, with frequent doctor's visits. Given these circumstances, I wasn't in the mood for sexual contact. During this time, my fiancé arranged to cheat on me with one of our best friends. He later came to me in the middle of the night, confessing that he had planned to cheat but ultimately didn't. I found it difficult to find solace in his confession, as it seemed trivial in light of everything else I was going through. Now that our baby is here, I find myself struggling every day to make ends meet. My fiancé spends money on unnecessary things like games and takeout, even when we can't afford to pay rent. I have to work extra hard to make up for the shortfall. I even blew my stitches on the day I returned home from the hospital because I was doing everything. Lifting laundry up and down 3 flights of stairs, taking care of our daughter, and managing household chores. A year has passed, and I'm still the one doing everything for our daughter. I wake up multiple times at night to soothe her, as my fiancé shows little interest in taking care of her. I handle feeding, changing, bathing, and teaching her all by myself. These are things we should be doing together, but he fails to contribute. He also doesn't help with household tasks, and on top of that, had the nerve to ask me when I would finish the Christmas decorations, despite explicitly telling me not to touch them because he wanted to do it with our daughter. It's worth noting that I had already cleaned the entire house with our baby on my back. Today was the final straw when I asked my fiancé to take our daughter and his baby sister to see the Christmas tree light up in town. He called his mother, who insisted that our grandbaby should not go outside because it's too cold. She suggested leaving our daughter behind, saying she wouldn't remember the experience anyway. This infuriated me, and I snapped at my fiancé, expressing my frustration and stating that if our daughter couldn't go, then I wouldn't go either. These memories are supposed to be for me to cherish and remember the milestones of my baby growing up. My fiancé asked how he could convince me that he was on my side, and I told him that he couldn't. I explained that he is failing as a father, neglecting our baby when she cries for him and prioritizing video games over her. I have to witness my baby's heartbreak even before she understands what it means. I also told him that he is a terrible partner, never having my back and never helping me. It feels like I'm a single parent. He left, and now I'm being bombarded by our friends and his family who label me as the villain for my outburst. They claim I should have been nicer, or that my fiancé is right and I shouldn't be taking our baby out because it doesn't matter. While my family says they will support me no matter what, I'm not entirely convinced. After reflecting on the story, it is clear that the OP has endured a series of challenging experiences in their relationship. From the family disapproval to the lack of support and involvement from their fiancé, the author has been carrying a heavy burden. It is understandable that they reached a breaking point and expressed their frustrations. It is important for all parties involved to listen, empathize, and work towards finding a resolution that prioritizes the well-being of both the parent and the child. In a long-distance relationship for over 5 years, plans to finally be together shattered when my boyfriend's unwarranted jealousy led to a terrifying confrontation. Faced with accusations, transphobic undertones, and an ultimatum from my supportive roommate, I made a heart-wrenching decision that left me questioning my own actions. Here's how it all went down. I'm feeling terrible and conflicted right now. To provide some context, my partner and I have been in a long-distance relationship for 5 years. We have met in person multiple times, talk on the phone every night, and had plans to buy plane tickets this weekend to see each other again. It's important to mention that I took on a second job during the holiday season to save money and move closer to him. The plan was for me to move to a neighboring state while I worked on obtaining a work visa to stay with him. His mom even offered to help me with the paperwork. Since he isn't financially secure, I wanted to be closer so we could spend more time together while he sorted things out. Although he is employed, he struggles to keep a job for more than 6 months. We suspect it's due to depression, and I have been urging him to see a therapist. However, he always blocks me and claims it's impossible due to the socialized healthcare system in his country. I genuinely trust him, but this is the first time I have felt betrayed. We have had our share of challenges, but we always made a point to have video calls and talk things through whenever issues arose, and we were able to recover from them. But this time, things were different. My roommate is transgender, 21 MTF, and we quickly became close friends. She has more sexual experience than I do. My boyfriend and I lost our virginities to each other, so I would sometimes ask her for advice on how to improve in that area. We would discuss things like oral sex techniques, which types of ropes to avoid, and recommendations for lubricants. Our friendship grew beyond just sexual topics, and we developed a sister-like dynamic. My boyfriend was aware of these conversations and asked me not to talk about our own sexual experiences, so I respected his request and never mentioned him specifically. I don't have many friends, and he never really liked them. In the early stages of our relationship, we even took a break because he insinuated that I was having sex with my best friend's boyfriend. When we reconciled, we established a rule. It's okay to feel jealousy, as long as we address it promptly. He was always allowed to express his jealousy, and I would share pictures or details about my activities with friends to ease his concerns. This arrangement worked well for a long time, and he only expressed jealousy a few times. I didn't mind because the distance between us was intense and it helped alleviate his worries. I never asked him to do the same because I didn't experience the same level of worry or jealousy when he went out with his friends. What caused our relationship to break down happened last night. I went out with my roommate to do some Christmas shopping, but all I told my boyfriend was that we were going to the art supply store and exploring the nearby plaza. I wanted to look for painting supplies as a gift for him since he always loved that. He was being clingy and texting me all day, craving attention and expressing his love for me. He kept asking to see what I was doing, and I shared everything with him. We went to a pet store, a Claire's, and ended up getting groceries. Somewhere in the middle of it all, he stopped texting me, and I assumed his work got too busy. When I got home, I helped my roommate with her makeup because she had a date, and after she left, I relaxed until my boyfriend returned from work. When he got home, he refused to call me and only communicated through texts. He aggressively accused me of cheating on him, citing that I looked recently had sex in a selfie I had sent when I got home. He claimed that I looked dazed, sweaty, and had messy hair. It was a truly frightening confrontation, and he wouldn't let up. He kept interrogating me, even calling me the name of a woman who had cheated on and hurt his best friend. He said he now knows better and trusts his gut, that I'm lying. He demanded to know why I was out, and when I explained that I didn't tell him because I wanted the painting to be a surprise and I wasn't even sure if it would work out, he called it a problem. After about 45 minutes, he finally stopped and realized how badly he had messed up. He kept apologizing, calling himself an idiot, and promising to make it up to me. I pointed out that the second job I took on for him left me with no time to have sex behind his back, and he thanked me for pointing out the flaws in his irrational thinking. He admitted that he didn't call me because he wanted me to confess, and thought putting me on trial through text would give him the win. I asked him if he wanted the win more than he wanted me, and his response was, in some sick, twisted way, yes. He also said that he felt crazy and needed medication. I felt incredibly nauseous. I texted my best friend and my roommate while this was happening because I was scared and felt alone. My roommate came home early from her date and asked what had happened. I was a wreck, so I only showed her the most relevant part of the altercation. I felt validated when she literally threw up after seeing it. She told me she sensed transphobic undertones in his words and said, I didn't survive 2 school shootings and my abusive relationships to deal with this. She gave me an ultimatum, break up with my boyfriend within a week, or she would break the lease and leave. I didn't know what to do, so I had him call me, and we talked. I kept asking him why he did this and why he hurt me. He had no answer. I told him that he scared me that night, and while I didn't blame my roommate for giving me the ultimatum, I wasn't ready to let go. He admitted that he didn't deserve me. In the end, it came down to choosing between my living situation and friendship, or the guy I have loved for over 5 years. I feel like an asshole for letting it all go, but I didn't know what else to do. I asked him how I would know I could move closer to him without him showing up at my door every weekend to check on me. I also wanted to know if I could have friends, but he didn't provide a satisfactory answer. He just made empty promises that he wouldn't interfere. The worst part of it all was that he seemed to accept the situation. We broke up about 30 minutes after that conversation. It was a drawn-out and painful process, and I feel like the asshole. I reached out to some of the long-distance friends I had lost due to his distrust, and they all told me I made the right decision. One friend even said that if he comes back today with a clear head and tries to talk to me, that's great. However, he might have done me a favor by helping me avoid a toxic relationship. I just want to know if I made the right decision or if I'm the asshole in this situation. I'm also deleting this account. I will check the comments, but I won't receive notifications about transphobic remarks targeting my roommate. I didn't cheat on my boyfriend, and that's not what I'm asking. I know I am loyal and did nothing wrong in that regard. I feel like an asshole for how everything ended, and I feel terrible for not standing by his side. I wanted to know if I should have endured the accusations. It's important to remember that every relationship is unique, and it can be difficult to navigate complex emotions and circumstances. While it may feel like a difficult choice, prioritizing one's emotional well-being and surrounding oneself with supportive friends and living arrangements is crucial. As I stood in the grocery store, deafness shielding me from the chaos of the world, little did I know that an encounter with Karen would turn my peaceful existence upside down. Ignorance clashed with understanding, and a simple misunderstanding spiraled into a battle for justice as Karen calls cops to arrest me for being rude. But I'm deaf. Here's how it all went down. My name is Alex, and I'm deaf. I communicate through sign language and lip reading, which works fine most of the time. That is, until I had the misfortune of encountering Karen at the local grocery store. It was a typical sunny afternoon, and I was at this local grocery store picking up some essentials. I was minding my own business, browsing through the aisles when I felt a sharp tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw a middle-aged woman with a scowl that could curdle milk. It was Karen, though I didn't know her name at the time. She started talking, her lips moving rapidly. I couldn't understand her, so I gestured to my ears and shook my head, hoping she'd understand that I was deaf. But Karen, oh Karen, she didn't take that well. "What do you mean no? I'm talking to you. Are you ignoring me?" she screeched. I could see her lips and her red face, but her words were lost to me. I tried to explain, using my limited ability to speak and some basic signs, that I was deaf. But Karen wasn't having any of it. She started ranting, her face turning a shade of red that would put tomatoes to shame. The situation escalated quickly. Karen, in her infinite wisdom, decided that my rudeness was a crime. She whipped out her phone and dialed 911. I stood there bewildered as she animatedly explained to the dispatcher that I was being deliberately rude and ignoring her. The next thing I knew, 2 police officers walked into the store. Karen pointed at me, her finger shaking with rage. "That's him! Arrest him for ignoring me!" One of the officers, a young guy with a bewildered look, approached me. "Sir, we've been told you're causing a disturbance." I tried to explain, but Karen interrupted. "He's pretending. He heard me just fine." The officer, now understanding the situation, turned to Karen. "Ma'am, he's deaf. He can't hear you." But Karen was like a dog with a bone. Deaf or not, it's no excuse. He was rude to me and I demand justice. The officers exchanged glances, clearly at a loss. The younger one tried to reason with Karen, explaining that being deaf isn't a crime and that I hadn't done anything wrong. But Karen was relentless. The store manager, Mr. Miller, came over to see what the commotion was about. After a quick explanation, he sided with me, much to Karen's dismay. "This gentleman is a regular customer, and he's always been respectful. He's deaf, Karen. You can't expect him to respond to you verbally." Karen huffed. "Well, he should have found a way to let me know." Mr. Miller raised an eyebrow. "He did. You just didn't listen." The officers eventually convinced Karen to leave, but not before she vowed to take this to the higher authorities. I was left standing there, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over me. As Karen stormed out, she turned to me one last time. "You'll regret this. People like you should be taught a lesson." I watched her leave, her words echoing in the silence of my world. It was a stark reminder that even in the quietest towns, ignorance and stubbornness can speak volumes. And as for me, I just went back to shopping, grateful for the peace that returned to the local grocery. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that this wasn't the last I'd see of Karen. In a town like Willow Creek, word travels fast, and Karen's kind of stubbornness tends to echo louder than most. I can't believe Karen called the cops on someone just because they were deaf. It's important to have patience and understanding with others, especially when it comes to disabilities. Kudos to the store manager for standing up for Alex. By the way, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating content like this. I never thought I would find myself questioning my own actions, wondering if I had crossed a line. It all started with a birthday celebration, but it quickly escalated into a heated argument, a stolen bracelet, and a slap that changed everything. Am I a jerk for slapping my stepmother? Here's how it all went down. I'm 19, and I have an older brother, 23. Around 4 years ago, my father, 42, got married my stepmother, 35, after leaving my mother, 41. My mother is French and my father is from America. After 5 months of leaving my mother, my father started to date my stepmother, and a couple months later they got married. My stepmother has 2 children, a boy Henry, 13, and a daughter Hannah, 8. My relationship with my stepmother isn't great, but we agree on some things. The incident happened 5 weeks ago when I was celebrating my 19th birthday. As guests started to arrive and the party started, it was time to blow out the candles before I could have done that. My mother came in the country to surprise me along. She brought a gold bracelet with my name and my horoscope sign engraved onto it. My stepsister saw the bracelet and immediately wanted it, but my stepmother told her no. Noted she has an habitat of wanting and taking things that didn't belong to her, and her mother and cougar her behavior. I spoke to my father about it, and I even threatened him that I would move to France and live with my mother if it didn't stop. After blowing out the candles, she came up to me and asked for it. I told her no, but I was stupid and left it on the table with the other gifts. Later into the night, I heard my mother shouting. I went to see what was happened. It was my mother and my stepmother arguing, and behind my stepmother was my stepsister with the bracelet around her hand. I'm 19 years old, and I have an older brother, 23. Around 4 years ago, my father, 42, got married to my stepmother, 35, after leaving my mother, 41. My mother is French, and my father is from America. After 5 months of leaving my mother, my father started dating my stepmother, and a couple of months later, they got married. My stepmother has 2 children, a boy named Henry, 13, and a daughter named Hannah, 8. My relationship with my stepmother isn't great, but we agree on some things. The incident happened 5 weeks ago when I was celebrating my 19th birthday. As guests started to arrive and the party began, it was time to blow out the candles. However, before I could do that, my mother came to the country to surprise me and brought a gold bracelet with my name and horoscope sign engraved on it. My stepsister saw the bracelet and immediately wanted it, but my stepmother told her no. It's worth noting that she has a habit of wanting and taking things that don't belong to her, and her mother encourages her behavior. I spoke to my father about it and even threatened him that I would move to France and live with my mother if it didn't stop. After blowing out the candles, my stepsister came up to me and asked for the bracelet. I told her no, but stupidly, I left it on the table with the other gifts. Later in the night, I heard my mother shouting, so I went to see what was happening. It was my mother and my stepmother arguing, and behind my stepmother was my stepsister with the bracelet around her hand. A moment later, my father came and tried to calm both of them down, as both my mother and I pointed out that my stepsister took the bracelet even after I told her no. My father told my stepsister to hand it over. However, she threw a tantrum and tried to run away. I grabbed her hand and quickly pulled the bracelet off. In the heat of the moment, my stepmother pushed and slapped me for grabbing her daughter. I admit that I squeezed her tightly when I grabbed her. Angry and caught up in the moment, I slapped my stepmother back. My father yelled at me for hitting my stepmother, and soon everyone at the party heard the commotion. My stepmother cried loudly, claiming that I slapped her. My stepbrother started to argue, but he soon calmed down after my brother and a couple of cousins on my father's side spoke to him. I left the party with my mother and brother, and I spent 2 days at my mother's hotel before she left. When I returned home, my stepmother and her children didn't say a word to me. They only threw hints, and my father hardly spoke to me because I didn't apologize. A week after the incident, I started receiving texts and calls from my stepmother's family, calling me a horrible person for hitting my stepmother. It became annoying, so I complained to my father. However, he hasn't told my stepmother anything to my knowledge. They also started sending me edited photos with the word woman beater written on them, which led me to delete my social media accounts and create new ones. I know that hitting women is wrong, and I don't encourage it, but from my perspective, she hit me first, and I got angry. However, I am considering apologizing to her and getting over the entire issue. I am looking forward to spending the holidays with my mother. I will keep you all updated, so am I the jerk? Since posting my original post, I have been sleeping and spending most of my time at my brother's apartment. I came home this morning because my father is dropping me off at the airport. My father and stepmother were home along with my step-siblings. My stepmother only said a few words to me, while my step-siblings didn't say a word to me. I spent most of the day in my room, while my father checked in on me from time to time. At 8 p.m., I was called down to dinner. After dinner, I waited for my step-siblings to leave. After they left, I apologized to my stepmother for slapping her and grabbing my stepsister. She responded by nodding her head, which I think meant she accepted it. I didn't really care. After that, I turned to my father and told him about my plan to stay permanently with my mother. He was shocked and asked if that's what I wanted. He said he would support me, to which I said okay, and went to my room. There were a few comments I saw that I wanted to address. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for sharing their input and advice, which I followed. To the people who said that I was the jerk and I needed to apologize, thank you for your input. I fully understand where y'all are coming from. I was completely wrong for grabbing my stepsister and slapping my stepmother. Secondly, to all the people who said I need to ensure all my personal and important belongings were locked away and safe from my stepmother, I did follow your advice. I also had locks placed on my bedroom door. Thirdly, people were asking why I stayed living with my father and why I didn't move out. I recently graduated from high school. That's why I lived with my father, and I did have a job for a little while. I want to address the people who said my father is a jerk, which is not true. In the situation, he could have defended me, but my father is a wonderful guy. He is a great guy, and I was never threatened or shunned, even after my stepmother and her children moved in. But he could have handled the situation much better. But it's his wife. Once again, I want to thank everyone for their input and advice, and I want to say that I don't encourage men hitting women or women hitting men, but I want to say thanks. After reflecting on the story, it is clear that the situation was complex and emotions were running high. While it is never acceptable to resort to physical violence, it is important to remember that everyone involved in this incident is human and capable of making mistakes. It is encouraging to see the individual acknowledging their actions and considering apologizing. Moving forward, open communication and seeking resolution through peaceful means will be crucial for healing and rebuilding relationships. Torn between love for my boyfriend and the toxic presence of his overbearing mother, I found myself questioning our future together. Little did I know, the battle for our happiness was just beginning. Here's how it all went down. My partner, 36 years old, and I, 30 years old, have been in a relationship for 8 years. To provide some background, he was raised by a single mother, 70 years old and in good health, who doesn't approve of any of her children's partners. He is the youngest among his siblings. We have had many conversations about how the absence of his father has affected him. He has expressed his strong desire to be actively involved in raising our future children. I was raised in a two-parent household, and I wanted the same for our future kids. We had many discussions and were on the same page about everything. We agreed that we would live together in 4 years. 2019. In 2019, he purchased a building with 5 units. His brother and his family live in one, wife and 3 kids. My boyfriend and his mother live in one, and he rents out the other 3. When my boyfriend bought his building, he told me he wanted to give his mother a unit and for me to move in with him. I told him that was very sweet and was on board with it. He said he wanted 2 years to fix up her unit, then she would move out and I would move in. 2021. I already own a home, so the plan was always to move in with him and rent out my house. 2 years ago, I got pregnant, 2021, and this upset his mother. She wished death on the baby and said that she wanted nothing to do with me or the baby. She made it very clear that she was never going to move out. She told me she is the queen of the house and I would be the queen when she dies. I was furious and asked how she could say such hateful things. My boyfriend spoke to her, and they had an argument. He told me he would not force her to move out. I reminded him that his plan was always to put her in her own unit, which is in the same building. He said she was not interested. I suggested that he move in with me, and he said he did not want to live in my city. He said that I should just move in with them. I refused. Why would I want to live with someone who doesn't like me? I asked why he wanted to raise his daughter in a broken home. His mother told me I better get used to being a single mother. She said I only have one, so it won't be that difficult. I live in a different city from my boyfriend. We live an hour apart. When our daughter was born, he spent the first 4 weeks at my house. Every day he would go home to do something for his mother. This really annoyed me because his mother does not have any ailments and is capable of doing things for herself. I suggested that he ask his brother to help with whatever needs to be done. He told me it wouldn't be possible as his brother is very busy with his family. When I asked him why he had to go home every day, he said his mother needed him because she was feeling lonely. I asked him when he thinks he will set boundaries with his mother, and this comment struck a nerve. His mother contracted COVID, and I took care of her until she recovered. I thought this would be a turning point for us. However, once she got better, she became even more hateful towards me. She told me she doesn't like me and never will. I asked her if I had done something to upset her, but she said I hadn't done anything, and she just doesn't like me. I spoke to my boyfriend about it, and he told me his mother never likes anyone he dates. He told me that all of his past relationships have ended because of his mother's behavior. She was unkind to all of his previous partners and essentially drove them away. He acknowledges the need to establish more boundaries, but he feels guilty because she was a single mom who took care of him, and now he feels it's his turn to take care of her. I expressed to him that he should prioritize the family we are building together. I asked him when he thinks he will be ready to live his own life, and he said when his mother passes away. I told him that since he is choosing his mother over his family, he should remember to choose her even in death. I will not wait for his mother to die in order to live my life. Am I the jerk? It's important to recognize that every situation is unique, and there are no easy answers when dealing with complex family dynamics. However, it does seem apparent that boundaries need to be established, and prioritizing the well-being of the family they are building together should be a key consideration. I never expected this to happen, but now I'm caught in a web of insecurity, mistrust, and unanswered questions. As tensions rise and secrets unravel, I must navigate the fragile balance between my newfound confidence and my wife's emotional turmoil. Here's how it all went down. My wife, 35 years old female, does not feel comfortable with me, 40 years old male, working out and going to the gym anymore, and is suggesting I quit. I've always been slightly overweight in my 20s and 30s and really let go during the pandemic and gained a lot of weight. It started bothering me, and hence last January, I joined a local gym and hired a personal trainer. I lost most of the excess weight, and the trainer also helped me gain muscle. I love going to the gym now and working out 3-4 times a week. My wife, of course, loved my dedication, and I sometimes found her staring at me when I was changing, which was adorable. Overall, my confidence improved, and I also started dressing nicely, and everything just fit right. I had a situation happen to me in the summer at my workplace. My wife's friend Barb also works in my company. One of the girls in my company, JC, late 20s female, from a different department, started becoming very friendly with me, started joining me for lunches and messaging me throughout the day about random topics. I would be busy and tried to be polite and ignore her. However, things got strange when she got hold of my phone number, which only my manager knows in the office, and started messaging me after hours. I immediately drew a line and told her it's not acceptable and only to talk to me via the company messenger, as I do not talk to work colleagues on my personal phone. I also started ignoring her after that, except for a polite hello when we came face to face. My wife asked me to report her to HR, but I did not because she never messaged me about anything inappropriate. My wife checked with her friend Barb, and she told my wife that JC and her friends were discussing my weight loss and how I have completely changed the way I dress. Again, I ignored it, as I am not sure this was raised enough to be reported to HR. The day before yesterday, during our Christmas party, Jay approached me twice and asked me to join her on the dance floor. I declined and just went about my way. By the end of the night, she came to me, started dancing suggestively in front of me, and did something highly inappropriate. I was shocked and fell back, spilling my drink on myself. JC's manager swooped in and told me she had too much to drink, and I never saw JC again at the party. When I reached home, my wife had already heard about the incident from Barb. She was crying and was angry at me. She blamed me for not reporting JC to HR when she had told me to. She also said I was drunk, which I was not, and had only 3 drinks during a 3-hour party and smelled like alcohol. After I calmed her down, she asked me to shower and rest. She apologized before sleeping but told me she felt very violated by JC's actions, and I promised her I would meet with my manager and HR as soon as the office opens again, which is after New Year's. In the morning, I woke up and started getting ready to go to the gym. My wife asked me if I could not go to the gym. I said okay, and we both cooked a nice breakfast and had fun family time with our toddler. Afterwards, my wife asked me if I could hold off going to the gym for a while. She told me that she feels insecure when other women look at me, and yesterday was a deal breaker. We never had any similar issues in the 11 years of our marriage. She loved me just the way I was and did not care if I became muscular. She told me that the purpose of the gym was to lose weight, and I have already achieved it, so I can just maintain where I am at and not work out further. Upon further probing, she told me that my losing weight had been a hot topic among her friends group, and she had a fallout with one of her friends because she made some inappropriate comments about me. All of this is making her very anxious. On one hand, I love working out now, for the first time in my life. It makes me feel confident. On the other hand, I want my wife to be happy, and this is a very small price to pay in my opinion. I know she is feeling insecure and controlling, but I love her, and the life we have built together, and all I want is to see her comfortable and happy. I am holding off going to the gym until New Year's and enjoying the holidays with my family. However, would I be the jerk to want to continue after that? How do I convince my wife to not be insecure? I know there is no switch. And what have people in this situation done? To be honest, after reading the comments for a few hours or so, I realized I was in the wrong for posting about my wife's reaction in such a sensitive situation. I just wanted to get perspectives from people in a comparable situation. However, I just had the internet judge her when she was at her most vulnerable. I tried to defend her in the comments section, but things got out of hand quickly, and I decided to stop reading the comments for a while and plan my day. I wanted to thank a lot of people who pointed out that her insecurity may stem from me not showing her that she is the most important person to me. I cooked her a nice dinner and asked her afterward if I had been ignoring her due to the gym or if I had given her any reason to mistrust me. According to her, I've been fine, but she's been having issues for many months now. She said she was proud of what I had achieved, and initially, she used to feel good when everyone complimented me. However, she did start getting insecure when I started receiving more female attention. She also felt I was enjoying it and didn't set enough boundaries. Her examples were that some of my female friends were complimenting my body and being overly touchy, like pressing my arms and hugging excessively, and I didn't put a stop to it. She also mentioned that she caught some of her friends talking to me in a flirtatious way, but I continued talking as normal. Additionally, she didn't appreciate her friends discussing me or constantly asking her if I would attend gatherings. When one of her friends expressed some inappropriate thoughts to another friend in private, and she found out, there was a big fight in their group, and some of her friends cut contact with that person. Overall, she has been struggling with these thoughts for the last 6 months and discusses them with her therapist. She also mentioned that food was an important part of our relationship. She is an amazing cook and loves to bake. Although she still bakes for our kid, she said that I only eat in very small portions when she cooks nice meals for me. It feels as if she is only cooking for herself and has stopped making elaborate meals. She used to enjoy the fact that I liked her cooking. She also misses the food I used to cook for her. So we set some ground rules. A. I won't talk about how I am getting my 180 grams of protein every day, for those who know. No. B. When she cooks something nice, I will eat it and enjoy it. C. She can ask me to cook her favorite meals, and I must oblige. And of course, she never intended for me to stop going to the gym and was just upset with the whole situation. So that is resolved. As for JC, the situation is still ongoing. My manager talked to me the day after the incident and told me she wouldn't take it lightly and had already contacted HR. HR reached out to me yesterday afternoon. To paraphrase their email, it talked about how they want to create a safe workplace. Blah, blah. JC gave a letter of apology to her manager, and her manager forwarded it to HR. She said that she was offered too many shots and got blackout drunk and does not remember the end of the evening. She thanked her manager for taking her to her hotel room safely. She also offered to never drink alcohol at corporate events or during office happy hours. HR set up a meeting with me and my manager after we get back from the break as they want to make sure I am okay. I wanted to get an opinion from anyone who works in HR here. I'm going to tell my side of the story, including the past messages, etc. However, what is the process that HR follows here? What is really the point of this, and what outcome should I expect? It is important to set boundaries and establish mutual respect to maintain a healthy relationship. In situations involving workplace harassment, it is crucial to report any inappropriate behavior to HR to ensure a safe and respectful work environment. Overall, open dialogue and empathy can help navigate difficult situations and strengthen the bond between partners. As I stifled a laugh, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A customer, convinced that his adopted cat understood every word he said. Little did I know, this bizarre encounter would lead to a series of events that would change the fate of Nelson, the misunderstood feline. Here's how it all went down. I work at an animal shelter, and I had a customer come in who I remembered from a few weeks ago. A man had adopted a cat named Nelson. I remember this because Nelson was one of the few cats we listed as sensitive, due to coming from a home with trauma. As a result, Nelson is extremely skittish and can occasionally misbehave. The man came in with Nelson in the carrier and asked to speak to our manager, Alan, who had helped him choose Nelson. It took me a few minutes to find Alan, and when I returned, he asked the man about the issue with the cat. The man complained that Nelson refused to listen to any orders he gave. Alan and I were puzzled and asked for clarification. Alan mentioned that while we didn't know Nelson's full training history, most cats understand the general word no due to the tone behind it. We asked if the man had tried using this approach. The man cut Alan off and insisted that Nelson was choosing not to listen to him. He claimed that he had told the cat the rules when they got home, but Nelson had ignored every single one. He went on a rant about how the cat was supposed to use the litter box, but had peed on the floor multiple times, and how he had instructed the cat not to go into the spare room, but the cat still did so. It then dawned on me that this man believed the cat could understand what he was saying. I couldn't help but burst out laughing, nearly tearing up. I had never heard of someone genuinely thinking that animals could understand human language like they were also human. Alan asked me to leave the room once he realized the issue, and I felt like a jerk afterward. It seemed that the man had never had a pet before and hadn't been around animals other than a few well-trained dogs. He genuinely believed that animals could understand human language. My boss wasn't mad at me, but she told me that I had acted unprofessionally, which I agree with to some extent. I don't think I was rude, but I know I shouldn't have laughed so hard. As a consequence, I was assigned kennel duty for the next 2 days. The cat was eventually returned, which turned out to be the best outcome in this case. It's important to note that shelters aren't always the worst situation for animals. We love and care for the animals at our shelter, though this may not be the case everywhere. I will provide an update when Nelson finds his forever home. I would take him myself, but I already have a 13-year-old cat and a 2-year-old lab, so it wouldn't be the ideal household for him. The news. Our boy Nelson has found his forever home. He was adopted 8 days ago, and I've been waiting to see if it stuck before posting. Nelson became a top priority for adoption because he was one of our most difficult but favorite cats to take care of. He became Pet of the Month and caught the attention of an older gentleman who came in with a printed copy of our Facebook post. It was very adorable of him. This man automatically saw us as a great candidate for Nelson, as he was an experienced cat owner. He had a sad story. His wife passed away last year, and their 18-year-old tabby passed away 4 months ago. He was feeling very lonely and wanted to get a new friend but didn't want a young cat. Being older, he didn't have the energy to take care of a demanding cat. Nelson was absolutely perfect. I have witnessed heartwarming moments with pets and their new families, but this one tops them all. As you may remember, Nelson is a cranky asshole that you can't help but love. He's not really nice and can be standoffish, but I swear, when we brought him into the meeting room, he pranced over to the man and hopped up onto his lap. My jaw almost hit the floor. After 30 minutes of Nelson going crazy over this man, he was adopted and went off to his new home. The man has sent us photos and updates of Nelson since then, and it seems to be going very well. I guess he speaks cat. I won't be posting photos as the man is in them, and you know, I'm trying not to get in trouble at work again. While it may have been easy to laugh at the customer's belief that his cat understood him, it's crucial to remember that everyone has different experiences and perspectives. This story also highlights the power of connections between animals and humans, as Nelson eventually found his forever home with someone who appreciated his unique personality. It serves as a reminder that sometimes, the most unexpected bonds can form between individuals, even those of different species. As I stood there, stunned by his hurtful words, doubts began to creep in. Was this the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with? Little did I know, that comment was just the beginning of a shocking revelation. Here's how it all went down. Me and my fiance have been together for almost 5 years, engaged for 6 months. We've never had issues where one of us was mad for a long time until this, and he, my mom, and friends think that I'm overreacting. I had a dream some nights ago that I ended up dating a famous actor by accident. We've both had dreams where crazy things happened and told each other about it. I told him in the morning, and we laughed about it. However, he made a comment about how my dreams are always extremely imaginative. I asked him to explain further, thinking it would be something funny. Instead, he made a comment about how I wouldn't be capable of attracting someone half as attractive as said actor, let alone him. I was taken aback, and he insisted that I be realistic, claiming that most men wouldn't even notice me because I appear to be taken and have lost my appeal, especially with the engagement. I told him that I don't seek attention from other men, but the implication of his words hurt me. He dismissed my feelings, stating that they were irrelevant because we are together and I would never leave him. For the record, my weight, hair, and overall appearance have remained the same, and I take pride in my appearance, so this isn't a matter of me letting myself go or anything. Seeking reassurance, I called my mom, who agreed that I was overreacting. I also reached out to my friends, who responded similarly. I feel deeply hurt because I love my fiancé and find him very attractive, and I know that others do as well. I am grateful that he chose to be with me, and it makes me value him even more. However, his comment has made me question whether he truly values me in the same way. Worst of all, I worry that I may be wrong for feeling this way, even though I can't control my emotions. Am I overreacting? If so, how can I manage this situation so that it doesn't negatively affect our relationship in the long term? It has been almost a week, and he is still distant with me, claiming that I appear miserable over a trivial matter. I just want things to go back to normal. The actor in my dream was Adam Driver, in case that is relevant. My closest group of friends consists of 4 girls, and I am the only one in a relationship. I do have other friends, but I haven't confided in them yet due to the response I received from my closest circle. Lastly, I have a long history of being highly sensitive and prone to crying over minor things. That's why it's not surprising for my closest ones to immediately call me out on it. I'm currently in therapy to address my sensitivity, my tendency to be a pushover, and my self-esteem issues. Thank you to everyone who has commented and provided support and reassurance. I will be initiating a conversation with my fiancé today to see if we can salvage this situation, or if I have potentially wasted half a decade of my life. First, you gave me the courage to reach out to my other friends outside my closest circle, and they were shocked by what happened and told me not to brush it off. They echoed many of your comments, and even called it negging too. Also, My therapist backed up my feelings and said I needed a straight-up chat with my partner and to set some clear boundaries and decide what's best for me and what I wish to enforce as my non-negotiables. Second, I did follow someone's advice and started going out more with my supportive friends. My birthday actually fell in between these dates and I decided to celebrate it by bar hopping in my city and it went great. My ex was invited, we were still together at that point, and was sulking the whole time because I did get external attention, which I shut down. Finally, what happened with my now ex? After talking with my therapist, I did explain my feelings to him again and reiterated that those comments will not be tolerated if we were to continue in the relationship. I also said we needed counseling as a couple, because this could stem from insecurities from both sides. He did not apologize, but rather justified his actions under 3 arguments, and yes, these came from a 28-year-old man. 1. I do look less interesting, and it's unfair to use my birthday as an example of me attracting anyone because I was catfishing as a younger woman, as the girls I invited are mostly 22, 24. 2. Adam Driver, the actor I dreamt about, is taller than him. We're both 5'7", and he is insecure about it, so dreaming with people taller than him is disrespectful and emasculating. 3. Even if his words, I'm objectively attractive, ever since I started therapy I became cocky and more demanding, so he took the chance to bring me back to earth. All of this was a shock to me. I felt as if the man I was with for the last 5 years was not there anymore. This was a complete 180 from what he was before, and I do believe is a mix of slipping off the mask after the engagement, and the fact that he changed jobs to a male-dominated corporation, and those new friends did give me a weird vibe regarding their stance on women and equality. Regardless of what prompted this change, I ended it, returned the ring, packed a bag with my essentials I had at his place, and left while he threw a tantrum. He was super uncooperative in returning some of my remaining stuff. He sent things in trash bags full of glitter and won't let me enter his apartment anymore. He also sent me all of the Star Wars movies with Adam Driver in them broken and destroyed, LOL. This made all of the pain I felt almost immediately disappear, which feels weird because I did love him, and it was a long relationship. Yet I grieved for like a week only. I did count my losses and just accepted some things I won't get back, blocked him and haven't heard or seen him since. Thank God it's a big city. My immediate circle of friends was cut off, as they valued more going to a wedding than my well-being. I'm low contact, LC, with my mom, and am being supported by my dad and siblings. I've continued therapy, did a Friendsgiving celebration, and I'm bracing myself for the holidays with my family. I'm mostly okay, relearning to be on my own, to validate my feelings, and currently debating whether to send a thank you card to Adam Driver. After going through a roller coaster of emotions and facing the harsh reality of her fiance's hurtful comments, the OP made the brave decision to end the relationship. Although it was a difficult and shocking experience, she found support from friends, therapy, and her own resilience. With time, she started to heal and rebuild her life, embracing her independence and focusing on self-validation. While there may still be lingering thoughts and unanswered questions, she is grateful for the lessons learned and the strength gained from this experience. As she moves forward, she is reminded of the importance of setting boundaries, valuing her self-worth, and surrounding herself with supportive and caring individuals. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.